Han Sol Kim stood in the center of the massive chamber and looked up at the 12 towering seats that surrounded him. Each seat held a different alien being, and each one stared down at him with eyes that showed no mercy. The chamber walls stretched, so high that he could barely see the ceiling, and the air hummed with the power of advanced technology that humanity could only dream of building. The Galactic Council had summoned him here to Nexus Prime, a world that belonged to no single species, but served as neutral ground for the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. Han Sol had traveled for 3 months to reach this place, knowing that the future of his entire species might depend on what happened in the next few hours. High Arbiter Velnath rose from the central seat, its crystalline body catching the strange purple light that filled the chamber. When it spoke, its voice echoed from every wall and seemed to vibrate through Han Sol's bones. The translation device in his ear turned the alien sounds into words he could understand, but the cold tone needed no translation. "Human representative," Velnath said. "You stand before the council that has governed this galaxy for 10,000 years. Your species has been observed and judged. The verdict is final." Han Sol kept his face calm, even though his heart was beating fast. He had trained for this moment for 5 years, studying everything humanity knew about council law and alien psychology. He knew that showing fear or anger would only make things worse for his people. Velnath continued speaking. "Humanity has spread to 47 star systems without permission. You have built weapons without approval. You have ignored 17 official warnings to limit your expansion. These actions cannot be allowed to continue." From the seat to his left, another voice joined in. This one belonged to War Prince Kethmar of the Torgan Empire, a massive creature covered in dark scales that reflected the chamber's light like black metal. "The humans breed too fast and claim too much territory," Kethmar growled. "They must be stopped before they become a real threat." Han Sol had studied the Torgans extensively. They were the Council's primary military force, with a fleet of over 3,000 warships. They had conquered dozens of species over the centuries, always with the Council's blessing. If the Torgans wanted humanity stopped, it meant they saw something in human expansion that worried them. A third voice came from his right, where a floating jellyfish-like being pulsed with different colors as it spoke. "The humans show no respect for established trade routes," it said in a voice like wind chimes. "They create their own paths through space and ignore our shipping agreements." More voices joined in, each alien species listing humanity's crimes against galactic order. They spoke of humans who refused to follow proper procedures, of human colonies that defended themselves instead of accepting alien rule, of human traders who offered better deals than established merchants. Han Sol listened to each accusation and realized something important. The Council was not angry because humanity was weak or primitive. They were angry because humanity was doing things differently, and that difference was starting to attract attention from other species. Finally, Velnath raised one crystal hand for silence. "The Council has reached its decision," it announced. "Humanity will surrender all military vessels to the Torgan Empire within 72 standard hours. All human colonies beyond your home system will be dissolved. The human population will be relocated to designated worlds under Torgan supervision. Any resistance will result in the complete destruction of your species." The words hit Han Sol like physical blows, but he forced himself to remain standing straight. He had expected something like this, but hearing it spoken aloud made it real, in a way that all his preparation had not prepared him for. "Furthermore," Velnath continued, "human reproduction will be limited to replacement levels only. Human technology development will be supervised by Council scientists. Human children will be educated according to Council standards to prevent future disruption of galactic order." Han Sol understood what they were really saying. They wanted to erase everything that made humanity unique. They wanted to turn his species into obedient servants who would never again challenge the way things had always been done. War Prince Kethmar leaned forward in his seat. "Your answer, human. Will you accept these terms and save your people from destruction, or will you force us to demonstrate why resistance is useless?" Han Sol looked around the chamber at the 12 species that ruled the galaxy. Some looked bored, as if this was just routine business. Others seemed eager to see what the primitive human would do when faced with impossible choices. A few appeared almost sympathetic, but not enough to speak against the majority. He thought about Earth, where 20 billion humans lived their lives without knowing that their future was being decided in this distant chamber. He thought about the colonies where families had built new homes among alien stars, believing they were creating a better future for their children. He thought about the human fleet, small compared to what the aliens commanded, but built with everything his people had learned about war and survival. "Honored arbiters," Han Sol said, his voice steady despite the fear in his chest. "I request time to consult with my government before giving our final answer." Several aliens made sounds that his translator identified as laughter. Velnath tilted, its crystal head in what might have been amusement. "Very well, human. The council is not unreasonable. You may have 1 hour to contact your leaders and hear their decision. When you return, we will expect your surrender." Han Sol bowed slightly, a gesture of respect that cost him nothing but might buy him precious seconds of goodwill. "Thank you for your generosity," he said. As he turned to leave the chamber, he heard Kethmar speaking to another council member. "The human still thinks his species has choices," the Torgan said. "It will be amusing to watch him realize how powerless they truly are." Han Sol walked through the corridor outside the chamber, his footsteps echoing in the empty space. Nexus Prime's architecture was designed to make visiting species feel small and insignificant, and it was working. Every wall, every doorway, every piece of alien technology reminded him that humanity was facing enemies with thousands of years more experience in conquest and control. He reached the small room that had been assigned to him and activated his quantum communicator. The device was one of humanity's newest inventions, using principles that even council scientists found difficult to understand. It allowed instant communication across any distance, something that should have been impossible according to established physics. The communication link opened, and Han Sol found himself looking at Dr. Mi-Young Park in her laboratory on the human research station orbiting Earth. Behind her, he could see the blue curve of his home world through the station's observation window. "Ambassador Kim," Mi-Young said, her voice tense with worry, "we received your coded message about the Council's demands. Are they really asking for complete surrender?" "Worse than surrender," Han Sol replied quietly. "They want to erase us as a species, turn us into controlled servants who will never again think for ourselves." Mi-Young closed her eyes for a moment, and when she opened them again, Han Sol saw the same determination that had carried humanity to the stars. "Then you know what you have to do," she said. Han Sol nodded. He looked directly into the communicators, visual pickup, and spoke one word, knowing that it would be heard by every human military commander, every colony leader, every scientist and engineer who had spent years preparing for this moment. Lighthouse. The communication ended, and Han Sol sat alone in the alien room, counting the minutes until he would have to return to the council chamber. Outside, 3 moons hung in Nexus Prime's purple sky, and somewhere among the stars, humanity was about, to prove that even the oldest and most powerful civilizations could still be surprised by those who refused to accept that change was impossible. Commander Do-Hyun Lee heard the word lighthouse through his secure communicator and immediately stood up from his desk in the hidden military base on Luna's far side. Around him, dozens of officers and technicians stopped their work and turned to look at him, waiting for the orders they had all hoped would never come. "This is not a drill," Do-Hyun said, his voice carrying to every corner of the underground facility. "Lighthouse protocol is now active. All personnel to battle stations. Signal all ships. Phase 1 begins immediately." The base erupted into controlled chaos as humans ran to their positions. Du Hyun had spent 15 years building this moment, creating a military project so secret that even most government leaders did not know it existed. The Lighthouse Protocol was humanity's answer to a question they had always known would come. What would they do when a superior alien force demanded their surrender? 3 years earlier, when humanity first made contact with the Galactic Council, Do-Hyun had argued that peaceful coexistence was only possible between equals. Since humanity was not equal to the ancient alien civilizations in technology or military power, they would need to become equal or face eventual subjugation. The government had given him unlimited resources to explore how such equality might be achieved. Engineer Sora Choi was already at her station in the facility's deepest level, surrounded by machines that hummed with barely contained energy. She had been working on her quantum drive project for 7 years, ever since humanity discovered that faster-than-light travel was possible, but that all known methods required using hyperspace lanes controlled by the Council. "Sora," Do-hyun called out as he entered her laboratory. "How long until the new soul can reach the rendezvous point?" Sora looked up from her control panel, her face illuminated by the blue glow of quantum field generators. "The drive is already charged," she said. "Captain Taemin can be anywhere in the galaxy within 6 hours. The question is whether the alien sensors will detect our quantum tunneling." Do-hyun shook his head. "They won't detect it, because they don't believe it's possible. Council science says quantum tunneling can't work across stellar distances. They've been using the same hyperspace technology for thousands of years, and never thought to look for alternatives." Sora's quantum drive worked by creating temporary holes in space-time itself, allowing a ship to step from one location to another without traveling through the space between. The energy requirements were enormous, but humanity had learned to harness quantum vacuum fluctuations in ways that alien science considered theoretical impossibilities. "What about the weapons systems?" Do-hyun asked. "Byung-ho finished the final tests yesterday," Sora replied. "The kinetic cannons are ready, and the quantum targeting system can lock onto targets through any known shielding technology." The kinetic weapons were another human innovation that alien science had overlooked. Instead of using energy beams or explosive projectiles, the human weapons accelerated small pieces of matter to incredible speeds using quantum manipulation. The projectiles looked like simple metal slugs to alien sensors, but they carried the force of asteroids and could pass through energy shields as if they did not exist. Captain Taemin Yoon was already aboard the new Soul, hidden in the shadow of a rogue planet at the galaxy's edge. His ship looked like a standard human colony transport from the outside, but beneath its ordinary hull lay the most advanced military technology humanity had ever created. The ship's crew of 200 had been training for this mission for 3 years, practicing maneuvers that would have been impossible with conventional propulsion. "Captain," came Sora's voice through the quantum communicator, "you have authorization for Phase 2. Proceed to the Kepler Nebula and await further orders." Taemin acknowledged the transmission and turned to his navigation officer. "Sujin, take us home," he said. Navigator Sujin. O had spent 4 years mapping quantum pathways through space, finding routes that bypassed all known sensor networks. Her work had allowed humanity to position ships and supply depots throughout the galaxy. Without the Council's knowledge, as she activated the quantum drive, space around the new Soul seemed to fold in on itself, and the ship vanished from normal space-time. Back on Earth, Dr. Yoon-ji Lim was in her office at the Strategic Studies Institute, surrounded by holographic displays showing detailed information about every species in the Galactic Council. She had spent 6 years studying alien psychology, military doctrine, and political structures, looking for weaknesses that humanity could exploit. "The Torgans are the key," she told her assistant as they reviewed the latest intelligence reports. "They're the Council's primary military force, but they're also the most overconfident. They haven't faced a real challenge in over 2 centuries, which means they've become predictable." Yoonji's research had revealed that the Torgan Empire's greatest strength was also its greatest weakness. Their massive fleets were designed to overwhelm opponents through superior numbers and firepower, but this strategy required coordination between hundreds of ships. If that coordination could be disrupted, the fleet would become vulnerable to more agile opponents. "What about the Council species that might support us?" her assistant asked. 3 species have shown signs of dissatisfaction with current power structures," Yoonji replied. "The Velthari are frustrated with trade restrictions. The Khosrin want access to new technology, and the Mercati have territorial disputes with the Torgans. None of them will openly support us, but they might not actively oppose us either." Dr. Mi-young Park was monitoring all communications from her station orbiting Earth, coordinating information between the various Lighthouse Protocol teams. As humanity's chief xenobiologist, she understood alien behavior patterns better than anyone else on the planet. Her analysis of Council politics had helped shape humanity's strategy from the beginning. "The Council thinks they're dealing with a primitive species that will either submit or be destroyed," she told Do-hyun through their secure link. They can't imagine a third option because they've never encountered one. Every species they've contacted has either joined willingly or been conquered. They have no experience with opponents who refuse to play by established rules. This was humanity's greatest advantage. The alien civilizations had become so set in their ways that they could not adapt to unexpected challenges. They expected every conflict to follow patterns that had worked for thousands of years, and they had no preparation for enemies who fought differently. Physicist Dongwoo Kang was in his laboratory on Mars, making final adjustments to the gravitational manipulation device that would be crucial to humanity's plan. His work built on theories that alien scientists had dismissed as impractical, using principles that required a different approach to physics than what the Council species had developed. "The field generators are ready," he reported to Do-hyun. "We can create artificial gravity wells anywhere within a 10-light-year radius. The aliens won't understand what's happening until it's too late." The gravitational manipulation technology allowed humans to create invisible force fields that could pull enemy ships off course or compress space to make distances effectively shorter. Combined with the quantum drive, it gave human ships tactical advantages that alien forces could not counter with conventional weapons. Admiral Yu Jin-shin was commanding the hidden fleet from her flagship in the asteroid belt, where 50 human warships waited in powered-down mode among the rocks and debris. Each ship had been disguised to look like mining equipment or scientific research vessels, and their crews had been practicing silent running procedures for months. "All ships report. Ready status," she told Do-hyun. "We can be in position within 4 hours of receiving the final order." The hidden fleet represented years of careful preparation and resource allocation. Each ship carried experimental weapons and defensive systems that had never been tested in real combat, but computer simulations suggested they would be effective against known alien technologies. As the Lighthouse Protocol moved into its final phases, humans across the galaxy received coded messages that told them their time of hiding was over. Colony worlds began activating concealed defense systems. Research stations powered up experimental weapons, and civilian ships revealed military capabilities that had been built into their designs from the beginning. The aliens had always seen humanity as a young species that had much to learn about galactic civilization. They could not have imagined that while they were teaching humans about council law and proper behavior, humans were quietly preparing to change the rules of the game entirely. Engineer Sora completed her final system checks and reported that all quantum drives were operating within normal parameters. The new Sol was already approaching its destination, and soon the galaxy would discover what happened when an unstoppable force met an unmovable object that had learned how to step aside at the last second. Do-hyun looked at the tactical display that showed human positions throughout the galaxy and smiled grimly. The aliens thought they were about to witness humanity's surrender, but they were actually about to see the birth of a new type of warfare that would change everything they thought they knew about power and control in the cosmos. Han Sol-kim walked back into the council chamber with steady steps, though he could feel the weight of every alien gaze upon him. The hour had passed quickly, and now 12 ancient civilizations waited to hear humanity's surrender. The chamber felt even larger than before, its purple lighting casting strange shadows that seemed to move with malevolent purpose. High Arbiter Velnath leaned forward in its crystal seat, light refracting through its body in patterns that hurt, human eyes to follow. "Ambassador Kim," it said, "your time for consultation has ended. What is humanity's response to the Council's generous terms?" Han Sol stopped in the center of the chamber and looked up at each alien representative in turn. He saw boredom in some faces, anticipation in others, and what might have been pity in a few. None of them expected what he was about to say. "Honored arbiters," Han Sol began, his voice carrying clearly through the vast space, "humanity has considered your terms carefully. We have consulted our leaders, our military commanders, and our people. We have reached a decision." War Prince Kethmar made a sound that the translator rendered as satisfied laughter. "Excellent," the Torgan rumbled. "Your species shows wisdom in accepting reality. The surrender ceremony can begin immediately." Han Sol shook his head slowly. "We do not surrender," he said simply. The chamber erupted in sounds of surprise and anger from several alien species. Velnath raised one crystalline hand for silence, its body pulsing with brighter light. "Human," it said, "you cannot be serious. Your species has 47 worlds and perhaps 300 warships. The Torgan Empire alone commands over 3,000 vessels, each more powerful than your strongest battleship." "I understand the numbers," Han Sol replied calmly, "but humanity chooses a different path." A floating jellyfish-like creature pulsed, with angry red colors. "Then you choose extinction," it declared. "The Council has been patient with your species, but patience has limits." Han Sol reached into his diplomatic pouch and withdrew a datapad containing documents he had hoped never to use. "Before any hostilities begin," he said, "I invoke the right of proving under the ancient laws that govern this council." The chamber fell completely silent. Several aliens leaned forward in their seats, their expressions changing from anger to confusion. The right of proving was old law, written into the Council's founding documents 10,000 years ago, but it had not been invoked in over 3 millennia. Velnath's crystal body dimmed as it accessed ancient legal databases. "The right of proving," it said slowly, "allows any species facing subjugation to propose a single challenge. If the challenging species succeeds, they gain full council membership and protection. If they fail, they accept complete subjugation, without further resistance." "That law was written for primitive species with crude weapons," War Prince Kethmar protested. "It has no relevance to modern warfare." Han Sol smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. "The law does not specify what type of challenge may be proposed," he said. "It only states that the challenge must be accepted if it is within the realm of possibility." A reptilian creature with multiple eyes spoke up from the far side of the chamber. "What challenge do you propose, human? What could your species possibly do that would prove you worthy of council membership?" Han Sol activated his datapad and projected its contents into the chamber's display system. Legal text appeared in a dozen languages, showing the exact wording of humanity's proposal. "One human vessel will engage the entire Torgan battle fleet in single combat," he announced. "If the human ship survives and inflicts significant damage on the Torgan force, humanity gains full council membership and all subjugation orders are permanently voided." The chamber exploded into chaos. Aliens shouted in languages that the translation system could not keep up with, their voices creating a cacophony of disbelief and outrage. Several council members stood up from their seats, their body language showing agitation that needed no translation. War Prince Kethmar's voice boomed over the noise. "Impossible! The Torgan battle fleet consists of 500 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy. No single vessel could stand against such a force. Which is why it would prove humanity worthy of council membership if we succeeded," Han Sol replied, when the noise died down. "The right of proving requires a challenge. That seems impossible, but is technically achievable." Velnath consulted its legal databases again, its crystal body flickering with rapid information processing. "The proposal meets the technical requirements of ancient law," it admitted reluctantly. "But it is suicide. Your single ship would be destroyed within minutes." "That is our risk to take," Han Sol said. "The question is whether the Council will honor its own laws or abandon them when they become inconvenient." A spider-like creature with silver exoskeleton clicked its mandibles, in what might have been amusement. "The human seeks an honorable death for his species," it observed. "Perhaps that is preferable to slow extinction under Torgan rule." War Prince Kethmar stood up, his massive form casting shadows across the chamber. "The Torgan Empire accepts this ridiculous challenge," he declared. "Our battle fleet will demonstrate why resistance to council authority is futile. When your ship is destroyed, all humanity will witness the price of defiance." Other council members began voicing their agreement. Some seemed reluctant, but none were willing to oppose the Torgans openly. The challenge would provide a spectacular demonstration of council power that would discourage other species from similar thoughts of rebellion. "Where will this combat take place?" asked a floating gas creature whose voice sounded like wind through caverns. "The Kepler Nebula," Han Sol replied immediately. "It is neutral space, with no inhabited worlds that could be damaged by the battle. All council members may observe to ensure fair conduct." Velnath's legal systems finished processing the proposal. "Very well," it announced. "The right of proving is officially invoked. Humanity will provide one vessel to face the Torgan battle, fleet in the Kepler Nebula. The combat will take place in exactly 48 standard hours with all council members observing. If the human vessel is destroyed, humanity accepts complete subjugation. If it somehow survives and damages the Torgan fleet significantly, humanity gains full council membership. War Prince Kethmar laughed, a sound like grinding metal that echoed through the chamber. 48 hours to prepare for annihilation, he said. The human ship will face 500 Torgan dreadnoughts, each capable of destroying planets. This will be the shortest battle in galactic history. Hansol bowed slightly to the council. Thank you for honoring your own laws, he said. Humanity will not forget this gesture of respect for legal tradition. As he turned to leave the chamber, he heard aliens discussing the upcoming battle in tones that ranged from anticipation to regret. Some seemed to view it as entertainment, others as a necessary demonstration of power. A few appeared genuinely sad that an entire species would soon be eliminated. Communications officer Ja Yun Seo was waiting for him outside the chamber with a quantum communicator already connected to Earth. Ambassador, she said urgently, the entire galaxy is talking about your challenge. News of the battle has reached every inhabited system. Hansol nodded grimly. Good, he said. Let them watch. Let every species in the galaxy see what happens when someone refuses to accept that the old ways are the only ways. He activated the communicator and found himself connected to Dr. Mi-Young Park on the research station. Behind her, he could see dozens of humans working frantically at computer terminals, coordinating the final phases of humanity's plan. The challenge is accepted, he told her. 48 hours until the battle begins. The new soul is already in position, Mi-Young replied. Captain Taemin reports all systems ready. The hidden fleet is moving to backup positions, and our gravitational manipulation devices are being deployed throughout the nebula. Hansol felt a moment of doubt as he considered what they were asking one ship to accomplish. The Torgan battle fleet was the most powerful military force in the galaxy, commanded by officers who had never known defeat, even with all of humanity's secret weapons and innovative technology. The odds seemed impossible. Do you really think we can win? He asked quietly. Mi-Young smiled, and for a moment she looked like the young scientist who had first proposed that humanity could defend itself against superior alien forces. We're not trying to win, she said. We're trying to change the game entirely. The Torgans expect a conventional battle with conventional weapons following conventional tactics. They're about to discover that humans don't do anything conventionally. Thoring. Communication ended, and Hansol stood on the observation deck of Nexus Prime's diplomatic facility, looking out at the stars where humanity's fate would soon be decided. In 48 hours, the galaxy would witness either the end of human independence or the beginning of a new era where ancient laws and established powers could no longer guarantee that the strong would always rule the weak. Somewhere in the depths of space, Captain Taemin Yoon was preparing for a battle that would either doom his species or prove that even the most impossible challenges could be overcome by those who refused to accept defeat as inevitable. Captain Taemin Yoon stood on the bridge of the New Sol and watched 500 Torgan warships arrange themselves in perfect battle formation across the Kepler Nebula. Each enemy vessel was 3 times the size of his ship, their hulls gleaming with the dark metal that had become synonymous with Torgan military might throughout the galaxy. They certainly know how to make an entrance, observed Navigation Officer Su Jin-Oh from her station behind him. Through the view screen, they could see the massive Torgan dreadnoughts moving into position with mechanical precision, their formation designed to create overlapping fields of fire that would leave no escape route for their target. The New Sol drifted alone in the center of the nebula, looking small and defenseless compared to the overwhelming force arrayed against it. To any observer, the coming battle appeared to be nothing more than an execution, a demonstration of what happened to species that dared challenge Council authority. War Prince Kethmar's flagship, a massive vessel called the Dominator, positioned itself at the front of the Torgan formation. The ship was 5 kilometers long and bristled with enough weapons to destroy entire solar systems. Its commander had never lost a battle in over 2 centuries of conquest. "Human vessel," came Kethmar's voice over the communication channel. "I offer you one final opportunity to surrender. Your ship will be destroyed quickly, and your crew will be allowed to live as slaves. This is more mercy than your species deserves. Taemin activated his own communicator and responded calmly. War Prince, we appreciate your offer, but humanity has made its choice. We will not surrender. Then you will die, Kethmar replied. Begin the attack. The Torgan fleet opened fire simultaneously, 500 ships unleashing everything they had at the lone human vessel. Energy beams that could melt asteroids, missile swarms that could overwhelm planetary defenses, and plasma cannons that burned hotter than stellar cores all converged on the new Sol's position. The space where the human ship had been floating erupted into a sphere of destructive energy so intense that it created its own gravitational effects. The Kepler Nebula's gas clouds lit up like a small star as exotic particles and radiation tore through the cosmic dust. For 30 seconds, the barrage continued without pause. When it finally ended, the Torgan commanders expected to see nothing but debris and cooling plasma where their target had been. Instead, they saw empty space. "Where is the human ship?" demanded Kethmar, his voice showing the first hint of confusion. The answer came from directly above the Torgan formation, where the new Sol materialized as if stepping out of another dimension. Before any alien crew could react to its presence, the human ship fired a single shot from its main kinetic cannon. The projectile looked like nothing more than a metal slug to Torgan sensors, moving at what seemed like a modest velocity for a space weapon. Their defensive systems dismissed it as harmless and did not even attempt to intercept it. The slug passed through their energy shields as if they did not exist and struck the Dominator's central hull. The impact released kinetic energy equivalent to a small nuclear weapon. The Torgan flagship's armor, designed to withstand energy attacks that could vaporize mountains, crumpled like paper around the point of impact. Atmosphere vented from dozens of hull breaches as the massive vessel began to list to one side. "Impossible!" Kethmar roared over the communication channel. "No projectile weapon can penetrate Torgan shields." Taemin's voice came back calm and educational. "Your shields are designed to deflect energy and absorb momentum from conventional weapons. Our kinetic rounds use quantum manipulation to phase partially out of normal space-time during transit. They exist in the same dimension as your ship's hull, but not in the same dimension as your shields." Before the Torgans could process this information, the new Sol vanished again, reappearing behind their formation. Weapons specialist Byung-Ho Nam fired 6 more kinetic rounds in rapid succession, each one targeting a different dreadnought. 6 more Torgan vessels found themselves crippled by impacts that their defenses could not stop. "It's using some kind of dimensional shifting," reported a Torgan sensor officer. "The ship appears to be moving through space that doesn't exist on our charts." What the Torgans could not understand was that engineer Sora Choi's quantum drive did not move the new Sol through normal space at all. Instead, it created temporary tunnels through quantum foam, allowing the ship to step from one location to another without crossing the distance between them. The process required enormous amounts of energy, but it made the human vessel effectively untouchable by conventional weapons. War Prince Kethmar ordered his fleet to spread out and surround the area where the human ship might appear next. The Torgan formation expanded into a sphere with overlapping sensor coverage, designed to detect and destroy their target no matter where it materialized. The new Sol appeared in the exact center of their formation, surrounded by 100 enemy ships at point-blank range. Every Torgan vessel fired simultaneously, creating a concentration of destructive force that should have vaporized anything caught within it. Instead, Navigator Sujin-Oh activated the gravitational manipulation device that physicist Dongwu Kang had spent years perfecting. Artificial gravity wells appeared around the new Sol, bending space-time itself and deflecting the incoming energy attacks away from the human ship. The beams and missiles curved around their target as if following invisible roads that led them back toward the ships that had fired them. Dozens of Torgan vessels found themselves under attack by their own weapons, reflected back at them with deadly precision. Ships that had been firing at the human vessel suddenly had to defend against their own energy beams, creating chaos in their formation as friendly fire accidents multiplied throughout the fleet. "Cease fire! Cease fire!" Kethmar ordered desperately, but it was too late. The Torgan fleet's greatest strength, its overwhelming firepower, had become a liability in the confined space of the nebula where their own attacks could be turned against them. The new Sol began moving through the enemy formation like a shark among fish, using its quantum drive to appear and disappear at will while firing kinetic rounds that passed through energy shields as if they were made of air. Each shot was precisely targeted, disabling weapon systems, destroying engine cores, or crippling life support without completely destroying the target vessels. "How are they targeting us through our jamming fields?" demanded a Torgan communications officer. Taemin answered over the open channel. "Your jamming affects electromagnetic signals and subspace communications. Our targeting system uses quantum entanglement, which operates outside normal space-time. Every atom in your ships is quantum entangled with atoms in our targeting computers." As the battle continued, it became clear that the Torgans were fighting an enemy that operated according to completely different rules. Their tactics, developed over centuries of successful conquest, were useless against opponents who could ignore the fundamental limitations that governed conventional warfare. Sujin activated another gravitational manipulation device, this one, designed to create artificial tidal forces within the enemy formation. Torgan ships found themselves pulled toward each other by invisible gravity wells, their attempts to maneuver bringing them into collision courses with their allies. The massive dreadnoughts, designed to operate in the open space between stars, were too large and unwieldy to avoid each other in the confined environment that the human technology had created. Ship after ship suffered catastrophic damage as they were forced into impacts that their own momentum made unavoidable. Byung-ho targeted the remaining functional vessels with kinetic rounds that had been specially designed for this battle. Each projectile carried a small gravitational manipulation device that activated upon impact, creating localized space-time distortions that tore enemy ships apart from the inside. Within 3 hours of the battle's start, the once mighty Torgan battle fleet had been reduced to scattered wreckage and crippled hulks drifting through the Kepler Nebula. Of the 500 ships that had entered the battle, fewer than 50 remained capable of independent movement, and most of those were damaged beyond repair. War Prince Kethmar's flagship was among the survivors, though barely. The Dominator drifted powerless through space, its hull breached in dozens of places and its crew struggling to maintain life support. The Torgan commander, who had never known defeat, found himself staring at tactical displays that showed the complete destruction of his forces by a single human vessel. "How?" he whispered into his communicator. "How is this possible?" Taemin's answer came back without triumph or gloating, just the simple truth of what had happened. "You fought the last war, War Prince. We fought the next one." The new Sol hung motionless in space, surrounded by the wreckage of the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. On observation stations throughout the nebula, representatives of 12 alien civilizations watched their displays in stunned silence, trying to comprehend what they had just witnessed. The impossible had become reality, and the galaxy would never be the same. The council chamber on Nexus Prime had never been so quiet. 12 ancient civilizations sat in stunned silence, their representatives staring at tactical displays that showed the impossible results of the battle in Kepler Nebula. The most powerful military force in the galaxy had been defeated by a single human vessel, and none of them could explain how it had happened. High Arbiter Velnath was the first to speak, its crystalline voice carrying none of its usual authority. "The Torgan battle fleet has been neutralized," it announced unnecessarily. "War Prince Kethmar has transmitted formal surrender. The human vessel remains operational and undamaged." Han Sol Kim stood in the center of the chamber, exactly as he had 3 days earlier, but everything had changed. The alien representatives who had looked down at him with contempt now regarded him with expressions that ranged from fear to desperate curiosity. "According to the terms of the right of proving," Velnath continued reluctantly, "humanity has successfully completed the challenge. The Council is legally bound to grant your species full membership and protection." A chorus of angry voices erupted from several seats. The spider-like creature with silver exoskeleton clicked its mandibles rapidly. "This is impossible! No single ship could defeat 500 Torgan dreadnoughts using legitimate technology." "The humans must have used forbidden weapons," declared the floating jellyfish being, its colors pulsing with agitation. "Dark matter manipulators, perhaps, or temporal distortion devices." Han Sol activated his datapad and projected technical specifications into the chamber's display system. "Every technology used by the new Sol is based on scientific principles that have been available to all Council species for thousands of years," he said calmly. "We simply applied them in ways that others had not considered." Dr. Dongwoo Kang appeared via holographic transmission from his laboratory on Mars, his image flickering slightly due to the quantum communication protocols. "Honored council members," he said with a slight bow, "I am prepared to demonstrate the principles behind our gravitational manipulation technology." The physicist activated his equipment, and a small sphere of twisted space-time appeared in the center of the chamber. Council members leaned forward as they watched matter bend around the artificial gravity well, following paths that defied their understanding of physics. The mathematics have been published in your own scientific journals for over 2 millennia, Dongwu explained. The Velthari physicist Quandar wrote the foundational equations in your year 7834. The Kossarin researcher, Milketh, expanded the theory in year 8901. Your own scientists dismissed the work as impractical because it required energy expenditures that seemed prohibitive. A reptilian council member with multiple eyes spoke up. Energy expenditure was indeed the limiting factor. How did humanity overcome this obstacle? Engineer Sora Choi's hologram joined the transmission from her quantum laboratory. "We learned to harvest energy from quantum vacuum fluctuations," she explained. "Instead of fighting the universe's tendency toward entropy, we learned to ride it like a river current." The alien stared at her in confusion. The concept of extracting usable energy from the quantum foam that filled all space was theoretically possible, but had always been considered impossible to implement on any practical scale. Furthermore, Sora continued, "Our quantum tunneling drive uses space-time distortions that your species have studied extensively but never attempted to weaponize. We simply asked ourselves, what if we could step outside normal space-time whenever we needed to avoid an attack?" War Prince Kethmar's battered form appeared on another holographic display, transmitting from his crippled flagship. The proud Torgan commander looked like he had aged decades in the past few hours, his scales dulled and his voice lacking its former confidence. "I have studied warfare for 3 centuries, he said slowly. "I have conquered 47 species using tactics that have never failed, but the humans fought in ways that made all my experience meaningless." Weapons specialist Byung-Ho Nam joined the growing collection of human holograms. "Your weapons technology focuses on increasing destructive power and penetration capability," he explained to the aliens. "Our kinetic systems focus on quantum phase manipulation. A projectile that exists partially outside normal space-time can pass through energy barriers because those barriers only affect matter that exists in the same dimensional framework." The council members exchanged glances, filled with implications they were only beginning to understand. If humanity could teach other species these technologies, the balance of power in the galaxy would shift completely. Admiral Yujin Shin's hologram materialized next, showing the hidden human fleet that was now visible throughout council space. 50 advanced warships hung motionless near major alien worlds, their presence a clear demonstration that humanity's capabilities extended far beyond a single experimental vessel. "We positioned these ships using quantum tunneling over the past 6 months," she explained matter-of-factly. "They have been observing council worlds and military installations without detection. Each vessel carries the same technology that defeated the Torgan fleet." Several council members stood up from their seats in alarm. The realization that human warships had been operating undetected in their most secure systems sent waves of panic through the chamber. "This is an act of aggression!" shouted the gas creature, whose voice sounded like wind through caverns. "You have violated our territorial boundaries!" Dr. Mi-young Park's calm voice cut through the growing chaos. "We have violated nothing," she said from her research station orbiting Earth. "Our ships remained in international space and made no hostile actions. We were simply preparing to defend ourselves if diplomacy failed." President Jin-A Hong's transport ship materialized outside Nexus Prime's orbital docks, its arrival announced by the station's automated systems. Within hours, the leader of humanity was walking through the same corridors that Han Sol had traversed days earlier. But now she came as an equal rather than a supplicant. "Honored council members," Jin-A said as she entered the chamber, "humanity seeks partnership, not conquest. We have demonstrated our ability to defend ourselves, but we prefer cooperation to conflict." Velnath's crystal body flickered with rapid data processing as it accessed legal databases and precedent files. "The right of proving has been successfully invoked," it announced officially. "Humanity is granted full council membership with all associated rights and protections. All subjugation orders are permanently voided." The chamber erupted again, but this time the voices carried different tones. Some aliens expressed outrage at the change in galactic power structure, others showed curiosity about human technology, and a few seemed relieved that a new option had emerged for dealing with council politics. Dr. Yun-Ji Lim appeared via hologram to address questions about humanity's intentions. "We have no desire to conquer or control other species," she assured the council. "Our goal is to create a galaxy where technological innovation and cultural diversity are valued more than military dominance and political stagnation." 3 species immediately requested private meetings with human representatives. The Velthari wanted access to quantum tunneling technology for their trade routes, the Kosserans sought gravitational manipulation devices for their mining operations, and the Mercati hoped to acquire kinetic weapons for their territorial disputes with the Torgans. "Human technology will be shared freely with any species that agrees to use it for peaceful purposes," Jin-A announced. "We believe that cooperation and innovation serve everyone better than secrecy and control." War Prince Kethmar's hologram flickered as his ship's power systems struggled to maintain the connection. "The galaxy has changed forever," he said, his voice carrying a mixture of defeat and grudging respect. "The age of Torgan dominance is over." "The age of any single species' dominance is over," Jin-A corrected gently. "We propose a new era where strength comes from cooperation rather than conquest." Over the following weeks, human scientists and engineers spread throughout council space, teaching quantum manipulation techniques and sharing technological innovations that had been considered impossible for millennia. Species that had been locked into technological stagnation for thousands of years suddenly found new possibilities opening before them. The Galactic Council itself began to change as younger, more innovative members gained influence over the ancient traditions that had governed the galaxy for so long. New trade routes opened through quantum tunnels, gravitational manipulation transformed mining and construction, and kinetic weapons made energy shields obsolete throughout known space. Han Sol remained on Nexus Prime as humanity's first council representative, watching the transformation of galactic civilization with a mixture of pride and wonder. The species that had faced extinction 3 days earlier had become the catalyst for changes that would reshape the entire galaxy. "What happens now?" asked Communications Officer Ja Yun Seo as they watched alien scientists studying human technology with eager fascination. Han Sol smiled as he looked out at the stars where human ships now traveled freely alongside vessels from dozens of other species. "Now we discover what the galaxy can become when everyone is free to think beyond the limitations of the past."